Hi, today I'm going to test our 1500 watt pure sine wave inverter on this tiller. Now this tiller does take 12 amps. Now from what I can figure out, it should take around 1480 watts to run this. It would be 12 amps at 120 volts. And you can see there's snow everywhere, so this is a real bad idea. I also have my multimeter on here. I believe that's 13.8, 122. This is 13.85. This is how I have it hooked up. Here is my multimeter. Here's the inverter, multimeter. Now, can something like a 1500 watt inverter run this? Now remember, you're going to lose power through the inverter. These are generally about 80 to 85 to 90% efficient. So technically, this should not be able to run this, because you're losing power through the cables and through the inverter itself. But I did upgrade the cables. This is 2-gauge welder's wire, so it's much thicker. This is 12 volt. Now running this off my solar is really stupid because it is winter. I only have 2 batteries. Now I want to see if this will actually power this. I believe it will. Now I don't know the power draw. I'm going to try to get it as close as I can so you can see the power draw. But there is snow and ice everywhere. Now this has a safety switch. And you can see it's going back up to 12. And it is going back up. I do only have the 400 watts of solar, and basically not much is working right now. The panels are pretty much kind of covered. And you can see how fast this is drawing the power. Now remember, I only have 2 batteries. If you're going to do something like this, you really need to have more than just 2 batteries. If I had 6 batteries on here, then it would work a lot better. But since I only have 2, it's drawing power pretty quickly. Now it did not draw enough power out to where I have to worry about it not building back up today. I just have to dust off my panels. And you can see it looks like it may be snowing over there. I hope you can see that. And it's kind of nasty out. So yeah, you can run a tiller like this. This is the Snow Joe electric tiller. This says 16 inches. I do not believe it's 16. I measured it from outside the blade there to the outside in my last video. It's 15. I believe it's 16 across the top. So can you run one of these electric tillers, say, off of solar? Yes, it is possible. It has to do with how many batteries you have and the size of your inverter. Now, would I use anything smaller than this 1500 watt pure sine wave inverter? Absolutely not. And no matter what you do or whatever inverter you buy, always upgrade the cables. That is where you lose a lot of power. Your resistance is through the cables. And I have 600 volt cables on here. You can see it's 12.73, 74, So it's going back up. Also, if you have one of these bus bars, these also take a 14-inch, not 14-inch, excuse me, a 14 millimeter. They fit just perfect. See that? 14 fits just perfect. So a 14 millimeter, I believe that's maybe a 5/8 or something like that. And you can see this is 12.79, 12.79, 12.6 over here, 12.8. So the power is going back up into the batteries, even with snow on my panels like this. So yes, you absolutely can run an electric tiller off of something like this. Now I do not have to test this tiller on my generator. My generator is a 2200 watt generator. So we'll definitely kick out enough power to run this. But if you're going to run something like this, right here, like this, off of a power inverter, make sure even with the resistance through the inverter and the cables, it's large enough to carry that load. Now this was like $160, $170 inverter. So they're not going to be cheap. Do not buy those cheap $50, $60 inverters and expect them to do the same thing. And this is a pure sine wave inverter. So you can use this on all kinds of electronics. And you can see the power's 12.88. Now remember, I only have 2 batteries. And these are the cheap Walmart dual cycle marine batteries. 122 amp hours, what they say. And I only have 2 of them. And my batteries are like 5 and 6 years old, something like that. So they're not new. And they are dual cycle, not deep cycle, but dual cycle lead acid batteries. Alright, that's going back up. Now this is just a test. I wanted to make sure. I thought I could run it off the 1500 watt. I'm not going to run it off anything smaller than 1500 watts, because that should take around 1480 watts to run at 120 volts at 12 amps. That should be around 1480 watts. So this is right here at the limit that I would use at 1500 watt, that I would even attempt to run something like this. And since this is a pure sine wave inverter, it helps put out a cleaner power. And you can see it works just fine. I did need to test these before I left my review. And like I said, there's snow all over the ground. I just want to make sure it ran. Look at that. We're already back up to 13 here and 12.8 here. Let's turn this off. Now look how quick that's jumping up with the inverter off. Because this inverter draws power even on standby. Even with nothing powering, that inverter has power going to it to run the digital and the internals. 13.5, 13.6, 7, 8. As soon as I turn that inverter off, it started going up because the inverter is not pushing power through like to the lights and the LED stuff. And we're already up to 1311. That should be what's coming out of my batteries. So if you're planning on getting one of these and you want to run it off solar, you need at least, I mean, even if I hooked up all 1200 watts I have, it would still draw power out of the batteries, but it would not draw as much. So you're going to need at least, oh hell, probably 1000 watts. And even then it's going to pull power out of your batteries. They'll just charge quicker with 1000 watts once this shuts off. Look at that, 13.18, 19. And that is with that. Anyway, I wanted to do this test because, one, I wanted to check this. Two, I wanted to make sure, which I already had a feeling, that this inverter would definitely handle this. And if it handles this, it will definitely handle the chainsaw, because the chainsaw uses 3 less amps, which would probably be at 120 volt. Oh hell, like 1200 watts, maybe, something like that, give or take. But anyway, the chainsaw definitely uses less power than this, and this runs just fine off of this. And it's still going up, 13.32, 3.3. So yeah, you can run something like this off solar if, one, you have enough batteries, two, you have enough solar to carry it, or you have to stop and let your batteries start charging back up after a short amount of time. And you definitely need to have a heavy enough inverter. I'm not going to test any larger inverters. I do have a larger one, but it is a modified sine wave inverter. This is the only pure sine wave I have, and it works great. Just remember, if you're going to use any power inverter at all, especially for heavy loads, upgrade your cables. Definitely, that is a must. Now, each one of my cables here is like 3 feet long, and they are 2-gauge welder's wire, so they're heavy duty. You see the back here. I mean, these fans didn't even kick on. So that's a test on the Sunjoe tiller. Just check and make sure it runs. It runs just fine. It's real easy to put together. One issue I have is I wish that this cable could be disconnected when you remove the handle. It can't be. And I wish they had a way just to keep the cable like this. If you're going to use one of these, I suggest using some zip ties to hold the cable. Other than that, it's easy to move. Let's turn this back on and give it one more go. It is slick out here. Here's your safety. And you can see as soon as I let go of the power, this jumped back up. It does draw a lot of power. But as soon as I let go of that trigger, the batteries are jumping back up. I think the initial boost of this is drawing a whole lot of power. And it's going to take power to run this. There's no doubt about it. But as you can see, it's already up to 12.36. 7, 8, and if you go by the inverter, it's 12.2. I'd probably trust this quicker than I would trust this. After all, this is, I think I got this at Walmart. So You can see how fast this is actually going up. Now remember, I only have 400 watts of solar hooked up. It is a nasty day and there's some snow covering some of the panels. So it's actually doing a pretty good job. Anyway, that's it. I just want to show you, you can run something like this off solar. One, you really need way more than 2 batteries. I would suggest no less than 6, especially if you're using lead acid. 2, your inverter has to be strong enough. 3, you have to upgrade your cables and your terminals. And just keep an eye on it if you're going to use something that pulls this much load. But as far as this goes, the Sunjoe tiller looks like it's going to work great. The pure sine wave inverter is working wonderful. And look at that, it's already up to 12.59. I mean, it's just adding up real quick. And this is on that. So if you had more solar than this hooked up, this would keep up a whole lot more, a whole lot better than just with the 400 watts I have hooked up. Anyway, that's it. I'm fixing to go. I gotta get all this stuff in the house, and my hands are freezing. Because, I mean, look at this. There's snow and ice everywhere. And it's snowing. Oh, I saw a few snowflakes fall. I don't know if you can see that. Alright, anyway, that's it. I gotta get all this out in the house and get everything put up. This is a test on the Sunjoe off of our solar and our pure sine wave inverter. Alright, that's it. Everyone have a good one. Bye.